force behind this fundraising effort to save the rhino. Peter has been to Africa maybe 30 times. Nearly 30 times over the last couple of decades. And he has enormous energy and passion, and he has dragged us and the company along in the direction of Africa. Tonight he's going to speak about a few things. He's going to talk about the rhino and why we're here tonight, the sad plight of the rhino. He's also going to talk about what the I Make a Difference charity is doing or has been doing on the ground in Africa to help the rhino. And lastly, he's going to talk about this marvellous expedition that he's been planning to raise funds to save the rhino. So I'll hand you over to Peter.
Well, it's fantastic to see so many people here, and some have come from a long way. I know there are a lot of people that would have loved to have been here that couldn't make it. So, but we're going to be trying to videotape it over here. So, hello to those people over there. First problem: African expeditions. My forte. IT's not. So, I first wanted to talk about why we're doing it. So, do I need to use this? Can people hear me when I'm not using that? So, the rhino, why worry about the rhino? I've been passionate about the rhino for many years because I grew up, I met friends 31 years ago on a Kentucky tour around Europe from Africa, and the wife of the couple was involved in the translocation of saving the rhino back in the 70s and 80s. So she shared a lot of her knowledge about that, and so it got me involved very, very early on. But think about when you first see a rhino for the first time, you know you're in the presence of something that's been around for a very, very long time. To try and give you an idea of that, humans have been around for 200,000 odd years, and if this was 2 meters long, that would be the lifespan of the rhino, and the width of my finger would be the time that we've been on Earth. So the rhino have been on Earth for a very, very long time, along with the elephants. They're the two largest species, mammals surviving. And they were there, they were believed to be there in prehistoric times. So somehow they say they got past all the dinosaurs and stuff. So the rhinos are now being poached for their horn. The reason for the poaching is the rhino horn's long been a part of traditional Chinese medicine. It's also been used for ceremonial cups in China, and jabai is the handle of a ceremonial coming of age knife in Brunei. So there's always been a use for a rhino horn, and there's been belief in traditional Chinese medicine that there's been some relief from rheumatic fevers and coughs and colds and things from it. So it actually never been thought of as an aphrodisiac, which is often thought of by a lot of people. So in recent years, in 2007, a politician there's lots of reasons why poaching suddenly started up, but 2007, a Vietnamese politician's wife claimed to be cured from using rhino horn cured of cancer from using rhino horn. And that raised a huge spurge of people in Vietnam wanting to use it. And then it's got out of control in its value, so now it's worth more than gold, all the drugs that you can buy. So by weight, it's a hugely valuable thing. And it's become a status symbol to have a bit of rhino horn. It's been now given as gifts to between wealthy people. And if you're travelling in Asia, the wealth is phenomenal, and the amount of growth of that wealth in the last 10, 15 years is phenomenal. You've got more billionaires in Shanghai than you have in all of America. It's phenomenal. So when they've got their Lamborghini and they've got everything else, and now they're giving bits of rhino horn, an inch of rhino horn, which is like the ultimate wedding gift. So that's the background of what's driving the poachers at the demand end. So why save the rhino? And no one knows how many rhino there were, but there's likely to have been close to 1 million rhino walking around Africa years ago. They were poached in 1890. The southern white rhino was poached to less than 50 left of the species. Some believe it was 20, but there's all sorts of 50 is still very few rhino left. So the very first game reserve was the Umfolozi Game Reserve, which was declared by the governor, who was just taken over from the Zulu kings in Natal at the time. And he said he didn't want these rhino being killed anymore, and they became known as the governor's cattle. So we had the first conservation project on Earth, and we had the first game reserve on Earth. I know there's some real conservation people here, they might be able to argue that point, but this is what the South Africans told me. Anyway, it's a long time ago. So we had 50 rhino left at that stage, and they started breeding in this park, which is quite a relatively small park. I think it's about 4,000 or 5,000 square, 4,000 or 5,000 hectares. 4 or 5 hectares. No, it's bigger than that. It's probably 40,000 hectares, sorry. So they started breeding and getting, because the gene pool was so low, they had a lot of problems with getting them established again, and there's a 3-year calving period, so it's not an early turnaround. Rhino lasts for about 30 to 40 years. They live that long. They breed maybe 8 babies in their lifetime. So it takes a long time if you're losing a lot to gene problems. Then in 1968, one of the good things of drugs, morphine, came along, and a derivative of morphine, M99, became the drug that they could actually drug a rhino with. It was strong enough to drug a rhino with, not kill it, so you could actually capture it and then move it somewhere, because before that it's really hard to go, come on rhino, here you come on. These things are 2.5, 3 tons, so they're not easy to move. So from there, in 1968, they knew that if they wanted to save the species, they had to start spreading them around different parts of the world, and they had to get little gene pools starting here and there and there, because if you don't have the gene separation that you get by different populations, then you're just going to continue with the same problem that they had. So they moved them into Kruger, they moved them into Texas, they moved them into the UK, they moved them into Europe. Some even went to China, to zoos, and we've got a couple of people from the Auckland Zoo here tonight. And the rhino that we've got here will also, I expect, be part of the gene pool, the registered gene, so that they moved around. Even in Zululand, which we're very centric about, they move the rhino around constantly because of this gene problem. So it's a major game capture, and moving is a big part of the rhino's life. So the current poaching, as I said before, started in about 2007. But the support and the solutions need to start today to halt this dramatic drop in numbers. Who's doing it? It's a combination of organised crime. It's moved into organised crime. There's some, back in the day, poaching was more for the meat, and it was done by the local villagers, and there's more taking smaller animals that are more manageable. You weren't very many rhino taken for their meat because there's such a huge amount of it and it doesn't taste that good. So they're rather after the antelope species and things like that. The demand for the horn's grown so strongly that now crime syndicates are into this big time, and terrorism. So that you've all probably heard about the mall massacre in Kenya by Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab, it's a known fact that Al-Shabaab gets 40% of its income from trading rhino horn. So they don't poach it, they don't go in and take it. They are the recognised people that if you want to sell rhino horn, or if you want to buy rhino horn, Al-Shabaab's the people. So they're funding terrorism. That's the Somali and Kenyan problems, and others. Al-Qaeda has been strongly linked with rhino horn and elephant poaching. So you've got some pretty serious people coming after the rhino horns. This year alone we've had, this is out of date. I wrote this last week, 702. It's already 753. When we went to, we went on the last trip when we left on the 12th of September, it was 668.
How many are there now?
There's believed to be 18,800 white rhino left in the wild. So when we're going to lose over 1,000 this year by the look of it, and when you've only got, maybe we've only got 15,000 left, and when one's killed, there's a 50-50 chance she's a lady, right? 3-year calving period, so it's 18 months that's it's inside, it's in whatever that word is, it's in their tummy. And the other up to the other 3-year period, it's relying on its mother. So 50% of them take a baby with them. The babies don't survive. There's a few rhino orphanages which we were lucky enough to visit. I don't know if you saw some pictures there, but it was a lovely moving thing, but little rhinos crying, crying like little babies. It's a terrible thing. But they can get the baby rhinos and get them back into the wild. So the numbers are far worse. If we're going to lose 1,000 this year, it's actually 1,500 in breeding terms and in population terms. So and they die a terrible, gruesome death. I've got a what's the next slide? I've got a video to show you that's been put together by people in Africa about the problem, and it's designed to be taken to Vietnam, and this has been taken to Vietnam and shown to the people of Vietnam that they're trying to get the message across to the Vietnamese. So it's quite gruesome. It's not the American version, it's the Vietnamese version. So if you're not into gruesome stuff, look away. It's only the first half that's bad. It's only a small part of it.